Good evening and welcome back to another Minnesota gardening video. I'm Jerry and I'm going to be showing you how I filled up my raised beds. These two beds are new here. I already have the majority of them done and this side done, but I at least want to show you the cheap way, budget-friendly way, to where you're not spending $8, $9, $10 a bag on what they call garden soil or raised bed mix. There's really no such thing as a garden soil. You can make your own for a lot cheaper. And I'm just going to show you what you can do, how you can do it. Now these beds are only a foot tall. If you have taller beds, I would recommend filling the bottom half with like brush, leaves, logs, whatever, just so you're not filling the whole entire 2 feet or 3 feet or however high you have bed full of good soil. Like I said, mine are a foot deep, and what I like to use is either a topsoil or my own soil, so your own earth. If you have a spot in your yard somewhere or in the woods, wherever you may be, and you can dig up your own earth or soil, that would be good to use. You don't have to go buy any. Otherwise, just buy the cheapest bag of topsoil you can get from any of the big box stores. And then I also use peat moss and compost. So I try to get it to about a third, a third, and a third. When I'm doing it like this, I'm going to be off because I'm not going to lay out a tarp and mix it all up before I throw it in here, which you definitely could. And I'm going to show a little bit later how to mix it all up, and where you could either put it in here or it works for a great potting soil as well. But anyway, what I do to fill up my bed is I take cheap topsoil or earth from your house, whatever you got, and I fill about the bottom third full of it to keep that cheaper stuff on the bottom, which I've already done. And then I'll throw just an inch or two layer of compost on top of that, and then I'll mix that all in with the topsoil or your earth, whatever you have in there, which I've already done that. So now the next step is the peat moss, which I have loaded in the wheelbarrow here, and I just use one standard compressed bale of peat moss that you can find at Menards or Home Depot or wherever, which is 2.2 cubic feet, but it expands up to 4. It expands up to 2 times, which would be 4.4 cubic feet. So I got that in the wheelbarrow. I always like to wet it down first before I put it in there. So I'm just going to dump some water on there quick, get it wet down, put it in there, and show you what I do next. So basically I just mix it up, get it wet, and then I just toss it in there. And I just made a short little video on how to amend a raised bed if you're having issues with pretty much the same idea. Now the peat moss here has a very low pH to it. It's a lot more acidic. So if you're worried about that, which I'm not at this moment because I'm going to be growing potatoes in here, and potatoes can take an acidic soil. They don't mind the acidity. If you are worried about the acidity, or you have in any of your beds, if you test your soil and your beds are a little acidic, you can just take a little lime and garden lime and spread it in there. Don't go overboard with it. You don't need a whole lot. But like I said, I'm going to grow potatoes in here. So after that, I'll just spread it out, and then I'll just work it into that compost and topsoil down below real good. So I'll get to doing that, and I'm just going to get down and start working it in. This don't have to be perfect. This will give you a nice, loose, well-draining soil to work with. And I'm not spending an arm and a leg to fill it. Now I do 1 bale of peat moss per side, so per 16 square feet. This is 4x8, so 4x4, 16 square feet. Now if you were to buy a bag that says raised bed mix or garden soil at $7, $8 a bag, and they're only 1 cubic feet, well, you need 16 of those bags just to fill this area up. If you can find a compost place in town, they might let you get compost for free there, or a nursery. You can always just buy it in bulk and save a lot of money that way, or make your own. And you could also do the same thing with a topsoil. Just buy it in bulk if you have a lot of them to fill up. I know around here you can get it for like 35, 40 bucks a yard. That's a lot of topsoil there. So now that we got it worked in, the last thing I'm going to do is come back, get some more compost, and I'm just going to top the bed off with compost, and it'll be ready to plant in. Now there are a couple other things you could add right now, which would be an all-purpose granular fertilizer if you're going to be planting in it soon. I would not put it in there like a month ahead of time. But if you're planting in there soon, just spread it all over, mix that in a little bit. And if you want it to look even nicer, you could dump some perlite in here for added aeration and just for looks. But I'll show you that also in a little bit. So let me go get the compost, top it off, and then we'll go on to the potting mix. Alright, I loaded up the wheelbarrow with compost. So like I said, I'm basically just going to now top off the bed with it. And it'll look like that one right there when we're done. I don't need to show you all of this because the sun's going down and I want to get to kind of basically the same principle, just at a smaller scale over here. So we'll get back to you here in a minute. Alright, so we're over at the table. Now if you don't have access to your own topsoil or digging up an area in your yard or your own earth, and you're just doing a little bit at a time, or you don't want to buy in bulk, like I said, I just picked up here the cheapest bag of compost, the cheapest bag of topsoil, and then again the third ingredient, which would be the peat moss. Now I always forget when I'm talking about peat moss is you can also use the cocoa coir. I don't use that because it's more expensive, a lot more expensive, and I mean, to each their own. If you don't want to use the peat moss because some people think it's bad, then go ahead and substitute that out with the cocoa coir. And so I'm just going to show you like what a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 mix is like. And it don't have to be exact. You can add more topsoil or more compost, or if you have access to more than one than the other, just mix it how you like. But like I said, I just don't want you spending $8, $9, $10 on a bag of garden soil when you don't have to. So I basically just have a shovel full of peat moss in the wheelbarrow here, and I'm going to take a shovel full of the compost. The thing with the cheaper compost and topsoil is you might find a little bigger debris in there, maybe some wood chunks, and you might want to try to take those out. So like right there, we got a wood chip, just take that out. And then I'm just gonna come over here and mix it up well. I might have got a little more peat moss in here than the compost and the topsoil. But when you look at the ingredients on a bag of the mix that you buy, whatever it is, most likely it's going to have a lot of peat moss in it. And it's probably going to have the topsoil in it and a little compost. So by buying it yourself, mixing it yourself, you can get basically the same result. So now if you come in close, you can see it's just a very nice mix that comes apart very easily. It's very loose. It will hold on to moisture. And now that'll probably be one of your cheaper bags. Now, if you want it to make look pretty, dump a little perlite in there. Which perlite's very cheap to buy, and you can buy that in bulk as well. And if you want to lay a tarp out and figure out how many bags you would need and stuff, and lay it on a tarp and mix this all up like this before you put it in your bed, that's fine. But now you just went to a premium potting mix. So your $5, $6 bag now just went to $7 or $8 a bag by just adding that perlite in there. Now, take some organic granular fertilizer, give that a little bit in there, and you guessed it, now you have a $10, $11 bag of potting mix or garden soil, whatever you want to call it. But you can make it so much cheaper. Now you basically have your Miracle-Gro bag for $10 a bag. And it'll even say on the bag, you know, on the front you'll see it says grows food 2 times, 3 times bigger. But if you look at the fine print, it says compared to soil with no fertilizer. Well, I just added a handful of fertilizer that didn't hardly cost anything. So there you have it. There's kind of a cheap way to fill up your garden bed. Or like I said, this is a perfect potting mix as well. I'll be doing this exact same thing when I fill up all my black pots around here. So hopefully you take this advice and you're not spending an arm and a leg to fill up your bed, or you're not afraid to get out and garden because of how much you think it will cost to put in a couple raised beds. And I just started small. This was all in-ground gardening when I first started. And it was kind of when I really wasn't watching YouTube and didn't know much about the raised beds. So I never wanted to just keep putting a whole bunch of money into the garden every year. I try to put in less of what I know I'm going to get out of it every year. So I started small. Like I said, this was all in ground. The first year I built this bed and that bed. So I just built 2 beds first year. Then the next year I did 3 to kind of even them out. And then the year after I did 2 more wood ones. Well then, you know, I skipped a year and decided that I was going to go to metal. So you don't have to do it all at once. Start small. It can be a little overwhelming, and the price can, that sun just, I have to hide behind a tree. That sun. The price can be a little scary at times, but you don't have to do it all at once. You can grow a lot of food in 2 raised beds, a lot. and then a couple pots. So don't be afraid of the price. Just get out and garden. You'll appreciate the benefits of your labor. And with that being said, like I said, hopefully you take some advice from this video, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.